Hello, welcome. It's Francis here. Thank you for coming back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I bid thee welcome. There is a subscribe button below if you'd like to help support this channel by subscribing. Also a bell to be notified as to when I upload more content, which I seem to be doing this week. I'm coming to you from Ghana country, and as such, I acknowledge the Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains as being the traditional custodians of the lands upon which I reside. So this week we have a new moon. It's going to be taking place on the 28th of April here in South Australia at 5:01 a.m. So that's Australian Central Standard Time. Depending on where you are in the world, it could very well be taking place on the Sunday, which is the 27th of April. So please check out where the times are, depending on where you reside. As I said, it's going to be the astrological sign of Taurus at 7 degrees 46 minutes. And because it is a new moon, this means that the sun will also be at 7 degrees 46 minutes of Taurus. It will also be a super new moon, meaning that the moon will be closer to the Earth on its ecliptic, and it will actually be the closest new moon to the Earth this year. And the closer the moon is to the Earth, this means that its pull on the tectonic plates is stronger, and there could very well be the possibility of greater seismic activity. So I guess we just have to wait and see. At the new moons, we have the sun, which is our identity that we are aspiring towards, what we want to become, and the moon, which feels like home, it's the heart, it's where we belong, coming together, and this is what it means by conjunct. And we are also moving out of the eclipse season, so stepping into new territory. We may be feeling that new possibilities are starting to open up, or that we are able to progress through things a little easier than before. And this could be because we don't have any planets in retrograde at the moment. Everything's stationed direct. But before we look at this new moon, I just want to mention that prior to it, on the 26th, there will be a direct opposition between Mars and Pluto taking place. And this will be the final one of 3 that really commenced in November last year. Now, Mars has just moved into Leo and is at 4 degrees and 8 minutes of Leo, whereas Pluto is in Aquarius at 3 degrees 48 minutes. And this is Mars-Pluto opposition is really about pure force and power, with the potential for this energy to implode. And I think we're already beginning to see or feel those energies. You can see them happening, playing out in the world around us at the moment. Mars represents action, pride, ambition, and also aggression. It is the Roman god of war. Whereas Pluto represents transformation, power, and control, particularly over the subconscious processes and hidden truths. And in mythology, Pluto is the Roman god of the underworld as well. So the first exact opposition between Mars and Pluto, interestingly, took place 2 days before the US election last year, in November, as I mentioned. The second opposition was around the 3rd of January this year, which was the time when the LA fires had intensified. So it's quite interesting to see what this sort of fiery Mars in Leo energy will bring as it meets Pluto. As Pam Gregory suggests, this is brute force and power plays. This is the assertion of power in the world. And as I said, we're already seeing it happening now. If we bring that sort of idealism a little bit closer to home, this could also relate to individual power, issues around sovereignty, personal power versus state power, which is interesting because Australia is heading towards an election in early May. And with Mars and Pluto in opposition, they are forming a grand cross with the new moon. So there's opportunities here to create new beginnings. And with Black Moon Lilith, and I'll get to Black Moon Lilith in a moment. So we're just looking at this trine between Mars, Pluto, and the Sun and Moon. And maybe it's a good time to sort of just pause, especially as the energies intensify around us, and consider how we will react. Remember, this is about our own personal power and sovereignty as well, not only what's happening out there. Maybe sort of consider and pause for a moment where your energy is coming from and at what vibration it is at. Is it lower or higher? You should go lower or higher. We're seeing a lot of low vibrational Martian energy being displayed in the world. And I did mention this in an earlier video. We don't live in a vacuum. We are all interconnected. So what is our energy input into the world as well? What are we adding to this sort of intensity of the energy around us? Okay, now we'll look at the new moon in Taurus. Taurus is the bull. It's a sign that's very connected with the earth. So it's almost reminding us to remember to connect and ground yourself. Get out of nature, barefoot on the earth, breathe deeply into your diaphragm, focus on your connection. It's probably one of the better astrological signs to assist us in finding that stillness within. And again, this is a really important tool to have in our toolkit in this chaotic modern world that we're living in. It's an earth sign. It's connected with agriculture and food production. And in particular, it could very well bring up issues surrounding these. There's a lot of fiery energy around us at the moment. So not only do we have Mars and Leo, but there is Mercury and Neptune in Aries, as well as Chiron and Eris, who are both asteroids. And this could even result in some extreme weather. I know here in Australia, in more recent times, we've had flooding yet again in southern Queensland and northern New South Wales. While where I live in the south, we have been going through drought. And this is affecting our farmers. So both areas of the country, one, which Queensland is the, sort of like the food bowl, is underwater. While here in South Australia, our farmers are going through drought. And both of these are connected in with food production and agriculture. More recently, Queensland was affected by, I think it was a cyclone, I think we call it the cyclone Alfred, and that caused more flooding up in Queensland. And we're beginning to see these waters now move down the Murray-Darling River system, which is one of the very few river systems we have in Australia. Last time Queensland was underwater, so it was the big floods, 2002, 2003. When that water eventually came down to South Australia, it actually flooded some 4,000 hectares of agricultural land. So we're sort of watching to see what will happen this time. Again, this is all tying in with some of the issues that Taurus could bring up to us around agriculture. So why don't we now turn to the Grand Cross, and it's in the fixed signs. So Taurus, Leo, and Aquarius. Pluto, as I said, at 3 degrees of Aquarius, fixed air. The Sun and Moon in Taurus, which is fixed earth. And Mars, which is at 4 degrees of Leo, fixed fire. And these Grand Crosses are significant because they do actually heighten the planets involved. And that with them being fixed, it's almost like creating a lot of sort of willpower and intensity, but also a build up of tension because this energy needs somewhere to go. And this rise in tension is not necessarily a negative thing, for it actually forces us to take action. And coupled with the new moon, we may feel that we are being pushed into new positive directions, despite the protests, the anger, even the violence that's happening in the world around us. As Pluto, our power, our world leaders, clash with Mars, the unrest we may be feeling towards governments and other people in power. So again, it's important to come back to your breath, come back to yourself, to your center, to where you feel grounded. And this is the Taurus energy. And while you do that, consider doing a new moon, what seeds you want to plant for the future. Now is the time to be focusing on what you want to bring into your life personally as well as globally. As I said, we are all energetically connected, as well as, I guess, focusing on where our energy is as opposed to where it isn't. Another thing connected in with Taurus is our self-worth. And our Western society conditions us to really attach our own personal self-worth to possessions, to things that we have around us, and also to the amount of money we make. We have recently seen party tricks, basically, and stunts by the obscenely wealthy, almost to distract us from the intense suffering that's been caused by other people, or even that has been caused by them in order to create that wealth. Yet our capitalistic society keeps encouraging us to remain on that hamster wheel. However, it's up to us to decide on whether we're going to make a conscious effort to step outside of all the subliminal programming that we have, to regain our sovereignty, our own power over our own lives, and also to refocus on what is truly important. Do we really need all that stuff? Do we really need to upsize our house, our car, when something smaller is sufficient? And these are things that we can start thinking and considering, making changes in our life, especially at the super new moon. I said Taurus, it's ruled by Venus, and these are connected in with our values as well. So if you do have a copy of your natal or your birth chart, look to see what house 7 degrees 46 minutes of Taurus falls into. And this may very well give you some clues into what area of your life you should be focusing. Now, added to this is more interesting energy. We've got some really stubborn energy at the moment. It's all fixed in these fixed signs, but we have Black Moon Lilith making up that extra point, that fourth point in this grand cross. And Black Moon Lilith is at 3 degrees of Scorpio. So this is fixed water. So it's opposite the new moon. So Black Moon Lilith isn't actually a planet, it's not an asteroid, it's actually a point in space, a calculation. And what it tends to represent is that darker, repressed side that each one of us actually has. According to probably more Hebrew myth, Lilith was Adam's first wife. However, she didn't want to submit to him. She didn't want to lay under him when they coupled. And after an argument with God, she fled off to the Red Sea, where she was said to couple with demons. And then God created more compliant, subdued Eve from Adam's rib. So Black Moon Lilith, therefore, represents our shadowy self, that part that we have suppressed because it's not appropriate or it does not fit in. However, Black Moon Lilith, especially at this grand cross that we have coming up at this new moon, is wanting us to dive deep into those murky depths, as opposed to just swimming through what's on the surface. what can be seen. And this is new moon in Taurus, is just looking at the surface stuff of what's being seen. Black Moon Lilith is wanting us to get deeper, get dirtier, to really stop looking at things at the surface level, like stop covering up the wound with a band-aid or placing a veneer over a hole. She wants us to actually dive deep. And what's being helped with this energy is the fact that we both have Mars and Pluto squaring Black Moon Lilith, which tends to indicate that something could very well be emerging in relation to women's rights, feminine sexuality, gender equality. And however, yet again, there could be disagreement and arguments and people pushing back, especially with Pluto in Uranus. And what is quite interesting is, just having said that, recently, very recently, like just last week, the Scottish court was basically forced to rule on what defines a woman. And their ruling came down to it basically was biological sex. Now, I don't want to go into whether I agree or disagree with it here, because I think there's more to it than just that simple answer. But it's interesting because it's feeding into these themes about Black Moon Lilith, about women's rights, about gender equality as well, i.e., what is a woman? It's also looking at gender inequality, especially in the cases of transgender people. And all I can say is that here in Australia, the Australian Sex Discrimination Commissioner has already clearly disclosed that here in Australia, human rights belong to everyone. So there's some pushing back occurring. And another interesting fact is that Pluto is the co-planetary ruler of Scorpio. It's where Black Moon Lilith is in. The other ruler is Mars. Pluto and Mars opposite each other. And Scorpio is the sign associated with intense emotions and sexuality. So it's very interesting that these things are beginning to come to a head now at this new moon. Breathe. Okay, it's not all doom and gloom, because to counteract this, the ruling planet of Taurus is Venus. And Venus is at 28 degrees of Pisces at the end of the astrological wheel. And it's conjunct with Saturn, which is at 27 degrees of Pisces. And these two will basically stay here until the end of April. And also conjunct to the North Node at 27 degrees of Pisces. So being at the last stage or the last sign in the astrological wheel, this is about the awareness of endings, of connection. Also a reminder of what our values are. And again, we're seeing this in other places around the world, a reminder of our values. There is also an awareness of endings and what we may be moving away from. And as such, it's necessary for us all to seriously consider how important it is for us right here, right now in this lifetime. Especially when we bring in the North Node, because the North Node is all about the future direction. How are each and every one of us going to set ourselves up for the future? Not only individually, but the future of the planet, and also for life in general as a whole. There is this need to find peace with these endings. And this peace needs to be found firstly within us before we can then project that energy outwards. And when we bring Saturn into the equation, it's taking full responsibility of our consequences for the actions that we've made, that we have brought into the world, into the collective. And these consequences may not have been what we had initially thought them to be. but they are still a consequence of our actions, but also our inactions when we don't do anything. So that's something else to think about. So there we have it, a super new moon in Taurus that is squaring a powerful, forceful opposition between Mars and Pluto, bringing our attention back to our bodies, and in particular, what in particular are we feeling? Also reminding us to take note of where our attention and intentions are. After all, where attention goes, intention flows. So, what are you consciously or unconsciously bringing into your life and even projecting out into the collective? And with all this chaos that's happening around us, it's getting increasingly important to focus on that grounding Taurian energy, especially at this new moon. So before I go, I just want to do a little bit of a heads up as to two events that I do have coming up. The first starting on the Thursday, the 1st of May, and it might actually be on the Wednesday, the 30th of April, depending on where you are in the world. This is my online course, Embracing the Shadows, Rebirthing the New. It's a 7-part online journey where we dive deep into the shadow to see what's there and also discover ways as to how we can integrate these discoveries as we ascend again. Each session will be recorded, so if you're not able to meet the times live because of the time differences in the world, that's fine. Everybody gets the recordings. So the link will be listed below if you are wanting to join us, and you do have another few days so you can sign up for that if that's something that you're interested in. Also from June, the 7th of June will be my next presentation at the College of Psychic Studies in London, and it'll be a journey to the Akashic Records and beyond. And I will be sharing a little bit more about those details when they come to hand, because that you only just discovered or discussed what I'll be offering late last week. I'd also like to just remind you to check out the links of the astrologers that I visit to prepare these recordings for you, Pam Gregory and Molly McCord in particular. The links are below because they are the experts with the astrology and I am not. And what I would like to do just to end this is, and I feel this is a need, is to draw a card from the Divine Feminine deck. This is Megan Waterson's beautiful deck, just to see what we need in our world today. And I think it's pronounced Babia, the Queen of Saintly Women. Her little saying is, I am in service of divine love. I move the way love asks me to move. I do not actually heard of her. She looks Islamic, and she is indeed. She is a Muslim saint, one of the most influential Sufi women in the Islam history. She's a Sufi mystic who lived in the 8th century, present-day Iraq. And her message for us is, I am in service of divine love. I move the way love asks me to move. A little bit of a heart reminder for us. So, big new moon once again coming up. Please look after yourself, ground yourself, pause before you react to things, and hope to see you again soon. Blessings.